who doesn't love free games?
Oh, I do. You're gonna show Flappy Bird, aren't you? That game's the best.
Really, Flappy Bird. First, it was taken down years ago, and second, it was riddled with ads.
Oh, you mean like this video?
Shut up. Yes, we love free games, but they're more than just something to be used and discarded without any thought to where they came from. Some of these games are so well made, they easily outclass most paid games, and they were made by enthusiasts for free, who gave a portion of their life, often years, to create something they're passionate about, then released them for everyone to enjoy without any compensation. So in this video, we celebrate these true freeware games. While I can only show so many, the awesome Shmup community has helped compile a wiki, with now over 150 free games and growing. And it's all a small part of the much larger Shmups Wiki, created and maintained by Charlene. And without her hard work, none of this would be possible. You'll find the link to the wiki in my description, and all the great games you're about to see. And if you know of some good free games yourself, the best way to give back is to go and add that game and contribute to the list to help it grow.
Look, I found a new one, Flappy Crush.
I think I'd rather watch ads. Forget saving the best for last. Of all the games I played this week, none surprised me and put a smile on my face like Kaikan. Or is it Kaikan? Not sure. But simply put, it's freaking amazing. And if I had to describe it in just one sentence, I'd call it the fastest gameplay in the West. Or the East in this case. Absurdly fast wouldn't be an exaggeration. If you're in the mood to just blow shit up, then Kaikan is the ticket. Waves of ships swarm in by the hundreds. Your ship is so fast that you need a slowdown button for more intricate dodging, and the game does provide, also focusing your shot for more damage. Your bombs regenerate based on kills and medals picked up. After already playing through some of the levels, I suddenly realized that if you release the shot button, the medals all instantly come homing into you. Guess I should have read the manual, or the readme in this case. You select from a handful of ships, each with their own speed and loadout. But really, playing with anything but the fastest ship didn't seem right. The only fault that I could find with this game is that it ended. And instead of moving on to one of the next games that I needed to play, I started right back up again, and again, and again, and a fourth time. I just couldn't stop. The game is like shmup crap. Another high point was the music, and the ability to adjust it. I loved all the tracks in this one, and they fit the game perfectly. The config lets you turn the BGM up and the effects down, or completely off to suit your taste. And gives you 9 continues, so even the dodgingly challenged can see it through for practice, before going for a 1-credit clear, or to see the true last boss. Really, this game speaks for itself. If just watching this footage to the killer music doesn't get you hyped, you're in the wrong genre. It's hard to believe a game this fun is free, but it is. It grips you from the moment you start playing, and you just don't want it to end. when it does, you just pick it right back up again. What else could I ask for in a shmup? Kaikan is a game worth raving about. Play it. Now we go from a relative unknown in most circles to Cho Ren Sha, a mini masterpiece of game design, first released on the Sharp 68000, and one any fan of the genre needs to play. Despite its one graphical shortcoming, the same repeating background for every stage, they never fail to feel like completely unique levels due to the constantly changing creative enemies and some of the most fluid enemy patterns in a shmup. The key to Cho Ren Sha is timing. Everything happens at such a rhythmic pace, and often to the music beats no less, that it just becomes a joy to play. The music is original and fantastic, with every single stage having a great chiptune with their own personality. Point-blanking incoming ships, knowing in advance where they'll come in, all to the flow of the music, shows how much attention was paid to the integration of the gameplay and sound. You get unlimited continues to practice stages, so once you can overcome one, you can keep learning the next. Cho Ren Sha has that old-school Toa Plan feel with a little bit of bullet hell thrown in, similar to Batsugan. So if you liked that game, you're sure to love this one. Famibe no Yoshin, the original programmer of this brilliant game, certainly did, as you can see nods throughout, most obvious in the opening score table where all the slots are filled by various Toa Plan games. It's a fairly long game at 7 levels and has multiple loops, including harder loops, to unlock as you play. So what's not to like about Cho Ren Sha? Nothing really. The game is not only amazing, but considered a classic. Enemy designs that constantly vary, and a game with a rhythm that few others duplicate. Extremely creative bosses with multiple forms, killer original music, and some of the best gameplay of any shmup around, paid or free. If you want even more detail, check out Mark's review at the Electric Underground, where he did a full video dedicated to this great game. Cho Ren Sha is another must-play, and if you haven't yet, it needs to be at the top of your list. Alright Bullet Hell fans, I'm not leaving you high and dry. Do you love DDP, but you want it for free? Do you spend quiet evenings sipping scotch and canoodling with your copy of DOJ, while its opening theme softly plays in the background? Then Bluish Resurrection is for you. It's as close to something like Dodonpachi in both form and function as you'll get, without playing the original itself. Only there's one thing about it I enjoyed even more. Its accessibility. DDP takes no prisoners from Stage 3 onwards and will weed out anyone not serious about getting good. Bluish Resurrection feels like DDP practice. You can crank it up, loop it, and make it hard, but on default, it's something anyone new can pick up and play. It employs a guard mechanic, allowing you to take some hits, making it more forgiving. The bullet speed is slower paced, and the patterns not quite as complex to figure out. The power-ups, bombs, and extends are plenty. And it has every stage and boss practice right out of the gate, so you can jump anywhere from the menu and work on your game there. The bullets are extremely visible, and the medals and fluff are minimal, making it never an issue to see exactly what needs to be dodged. It's bullet hell, but it's not overflowing with things that distract from what you need to see. Of course, the graphics aren't nearly as fancy as Cave's games, nor is the music as original and interesting, more generic, upbeat electronica. but none of it takes away much from the excellent gameplay, which feels like classic DDP in terms of control. Very forgiving and a great way to get into the genre for new players. If you're looking for a DDP-like, add this gem to your list. I also want to quickly mention that this Ultra version is what you want to play as a beginner, or unless you're much more experienced. The original Resurrection did not have a wait mode option that you can turn off, making the bullets move faster. It also had many less extends and less enemies that clear the screen once they die, making it a much harder game, but also the ideal game for bullet hell veterans playing for score. So if you're really good, go for the original Resurrection. If you're looking for an easier, entry-level experience, then play what you see here. Pick your poison. But either way, the core gameplay is excellent. The same developer also has other free games of high quality, and you can check them all out on the wiki linked in my description. And again, you can also check out a full review of this game on Mark's site, The Electric Underground. Highly recommended for fans of Cave and Bullet Hell. Do you just love Gradius so much and wish they made more? Not an homage or a take, but something that looks and plays like the games of old. But Konami mostly couldn't care, unless it's slapped on a pachinko machine. That would be Spolous, a straight-up, unabashed Gradius clone. In fact, it's a Gradius 1 through 3 clone with all 3 games being represented. It looks like Gradius, it plays like Gradius, only it's all new layouts and stages, with a dozen or more for you to explore, that feel much like the old, only new. But this time, you get a few modern conveniences, making it a bit less frustrating. First are your options, which don't disappear and can be recovered when you die, which is huge for recovery and eliminates a lot of the Gradius syndrome of the originals, where some points are easier to just restart the game all over. The graphics are quite nice, similar to Gradius 2 Caliber, and you get to choose your loadouts as expected. You get 3 different stage routes, comprising each Gradius game, with the third being the most difficult. I didn't find a way to practice individual stages, so it's the traditional Gradius experience, broken up into 3 routes. Over a dozen levels to explore. Music is decent and fun, if not on the level of Konami's classics. But if you miss your old Moai friends and want to say hi, they're here and waiting. Want more bubble torture without the slowdown? It's got that too. It's easy to play, either directly from your browser on the website itself, or downloadable as well. As a really well put together Gradius homage, Spolous is a solid recommend. A change of pace from the Gradius you know, and yet, still nearly the same.
Soldiers, the future of humanity lies in your hands. God bless.
Okay, ready to rock, Colonel.
Unit 87, take off.
If there was ever a game on this list that you just can't believe is free, it's this next entry by programmer Locomalito, Hydorah. Yes, I bet you've heard of Super Hydorah, the later released and paid version of the game. Hydorah is 90% of that game, and free to boot, and it's also a must-play. I can't stress how complete and well-made it is. Had this come out for a 16-bit console as an official game during the early 90s, it would still be considered a classic today. Yes, it's that good. And if you're the slightest fan of 16-bit horizontal shooters, it's not to be missed. While it clearly takes influence from games like Gradius and others, it has so many unique ideas of its own, it wouldn't be fair to call it a clone of anything. The graphics are excellent. The music is solid and fits the game perfectly. It has a ton of longevity with branching paths, over a dozen levels, and the ability to save your progress a few times along the way at any checkpoint, allowing you to go back and try the levels you missed. And you absolutely will want to. There was one level called Better Not Go There, so of course, you know I had to go there. And it turned out to be one of the most awesome stages I can remember, with the cave collapsing on you while the water rises, forcing you to play within the confines of the compressed stage, only to be topped in its second phase by the real boss that you dive vertically while the eels snap at you from the walls, fighting over the prey that they just killed. Hydorah is full of set pieces like this, and is a blast from start to finish. It's full of secrets, like little people that you can rescue that later unlock them, and small details, like actually losing points when shooting buildings that aren't enemies. It doesn't have any cons I can really think of. Has an upgrade system as you get farther, unlocking new weapon types. And I can't wait to get back to it and finish the last few stages. In the I can't believe it's free category, Hydorah takes top honors, and is another must-play on this list. As long as we're on Gradius parodies, a very recent release, as in 2020 recent, is another homage, only to the parody series Parodius. It's called Paro Paro, and I wasn't originally going to do it, but it's absolutely fantastic. What makes it so good is that it's equally creative to those Konami classics, only completely unique. If you're looking for an actual next Parodius game, not a copy, but all new content, it's as close as we'll ever get, and honestly, better than we deserve. Its humor is on point, as cute as ever, and with music that feels right at home with any Parodius entry. I started out with this dude that reminds me of the Silver Surfer, only thankfully in a much better game this time than that NES debacle. And it's grooving to the music on that board, love it. Then you get an option, and it gains a friend. Looks like they're doing some horizontal dancing of their own. So of course, they needed another friend. Let's make it a threesome. Now we're talking. Okay, now it's getting scandalous. Can we fit any more? Oh baby, it's a full house now and they're on fire. You got little dudes popping down with parachutes as the missiles, then running along the ground. This is freaking awesome. Okay, let's try another ship. Like the Seal. Except it's not just a Seal, it's the damn R-Type R9. The ball is the force pod and you can shoot it out the same way. Attach it to your front or rear for protection. And you get all three weapon options, beam, ground, and laser. Wow, so now you can play Parodius as an R-Type ship, Sea Lion. Stage after stage, it's nothing but creativity, all unique and not just copied from Parodius, with obvious exceptions for homages here and there. Just a wonderful game. It was clearly made with a love for the original series, and I couldn't get enough of it. It's brand spanking new and fantastic. Totally unexpected and caught me off guard. If you want to play a truly new Konami game, only better than Konami can probably make one these days, or something that feels like it, try Paro Paro. It's about as fun as the real deal. Warning Forever is an example of a very basic, brilliant concept that I still have not seen in another shmup since. And I'm not sure why, as it's an extremely cool idea. The game is a boss rush, and only a boss rush. And it's the same boss that keeps coming back, bigger and badder. Sound kinda boring, right? Not even. Warning Forever is a procedurally generated boss rush, where the AI constantly learns how you play, and the next boss takes advantage of your weakness while guarding against your strength. Keep killing it a certain way, and it'll change its structure and shielding to defend against it. If certain attacks and weapon types don't manage to get you, it'll try new ones. And if it finds a pattern or weapon that kills you, something you have trouble with, get ready to see a lot more of it and less of something else with the next battle. Warning Forever is a strategic battle against the programmed AI, forcing you to change up how you kill it, even doing it in various ways that you normally wouldn't, trying to trick it into adjusting itself in a way that doesn't hinder your gameplay. One way to do that is via your adjustable firing range. When you aren't firing, you can adjust the direction and the spread on your cone of fire. Attack focused or wide, to the side, from behind, or anything you choose. Kill the boss from any angle and decide on the best approach. You start with a time limit and get time added every time you kill the next version. When you die, time is deducted, and the game is over when time runs out. It's such a simple concept, but it's so dang cool. Like seeing more lasers on the next guy because they nailed you the last time. Or armor reinforcing its front section because you keep disabling it there first. It's a pretty cool concept. Another interesting aspect is the game has no music, only effects. And it's on purpose, because you're supposed to use your own music. Place the file in the same directory, convert it and rename it as the README file states, and you've got any track of your choosing to enjoy. The game has a ton of options in general to adjust how you play and to your skill level. In any case, the game is simple yet classic for this cool idea alone, and definitely something to check out. You like Octopus? You like pancakes? How about Flying Pancake Space Octopi? Space invaders with an existential twist and rockin' new age space metal? Enter the Octopus. The Flying Pancake Space Octopus. And it's so weird, you kinda have to take notice. It's the game you can play with one hand, and do whatever you choose with the other. That part's up to you. Your first impression will be, what the hell is this? You move left and right, you fire by pressing up, and you can block certain shots by pressing down to guard. That's literally it, one hand. And your fire rate is insanely slow. I mean literally, you'll want to just stop playing in the tutorial because you'll be so confused how this can even be a game. But don't, because the Space Octopus gets so cool. Your fire rate is actually based on hits, so while it seems slow, it's also fast when things get hectic. As the moment it hits something, another comes out. It also upgrades, so one shot becomes two, then more, and you can even choose a wide shot or powerful Vulcan. If you stop moving, you charge a power shot that can do massive damage in one hit and adds a good bit of strategy. It seems very simple at first, but once it gets going, the game is a heck of a lot of fun. One reason is the atmosphere. The stages are so simple, yet they have this cool, otherworldly vibe, like you're on an interstellar journey to the farthest reaches of the universe. Which I guess you kind of are. You're a space octopus after all. But the music is just killer, with some of it tipping into the speed metal rock ballad category. One of my favorite stages was an early descent into the depths, where your octopi friends swim in to assist and wreak havoc on the enemy waves, and shielding you from their shots. The cave is rotating around you, and the music is hardcore. And that's one aspect I like about Space Octopus. It has its slow, new agey chill moments, floating through the vastness of the universe, before they ramp up into metal assaults both orally and gameplay-wise, at least on the normal setting, where things get hairy quick. Bosses have tons of forms, and enemies fill the screen, and suddenly that slow pea shooter is on rapid fire. There's a bunch of branching paths, which you can select after each stage, and it keeps you coming back, wanting to see what you missed the other way. It was one of those games that I just kept replaying over and over a few times, because I wanted to see as much as I could before having to move on to the next game. The flying pancake space octopus is hard to explain. It's just a cool experience, and if you give it a shot, put a little time in to see how interesting it can get. You may have a really good time with it, as I did. Mecha Ritz is bullet hell with a twist. The latest and most polished version is actually not free, but paid on Steam, Switch, and other platforms. But it has an original freeware version as well. And if you're not sure if it's something you'd want to pick up, it's a great way to check it out first. The big gimmick in Mecha Ritz is its constantly variable difficulty, always adjusting based on how well you're playing and scoring. So it always feels like it's just the right level of difficulty for you. It's a very obvious rank system that you'll see go completely insane the better you get, while toning it down just as quickly if you can't take the heat. It bucks the traditional bullet hell trend with deliberate micro-dodging, and is more fast-paced and manic. Bosses are constantly popping in and out of each stage to get a piece of you. You get tons of extends, bombs, and extra shields on every stage, and it always keeps you engaged with the dynamic difficulty. Sure, the graphics are pretty simple, though also a bit psychedelic in a good way. The music and effects are unique and well done, giving it a personality all its own. It has a lot of that FM sound that fans of old arcade and Mega Drive games will find nostalgic. Of course, the updated version is superior, has more stages, and is more polished. But if this looks cool at all to you, check out the free version first. If you have fun with it, and once you finish it one way or another, then you can think about picking up the paid version. Extremely tight controls, dense stages that never let up, and a dynamic difficulty that always feels right. Mecha Ritz is definitely a winner, free or otherwise. Another one that's highly recommended for its gameplay. And now for something different. A game that could only be free because it's so impossible that it makes you immortal and counts how many times you die per stage. Actually being able to play it would make you feel like a badass. Except you won't be able to play it, because you're not that badass. Not enough for Radio Zonde. A game that will kill you every several seconds and never let up. A game that gives new meaning to credit feeding and makes you thankful you don't actually have to keep popping in quarters. You have a pretty sweet arsenal, switching between a focused fire and a wide shot, along with a short-range melee attack that does big damage and even knocks away some shots. Along with a bomb, you have all the tools to presumably make quick work of most enemies. But it won't happen. Until you memorize every incoming wave and how to kill them before most can fire, you'll be met with an obtuse barrage that's borderline ridiculous. Until you know where to be at every moment for each new volley of boss attacks, which seem to be endless. You'll die a dozen times or more before you take one down. So yeah, it's the kind of game you just know would be awesome to play if it were possible to play with some kind of skill. Apparently, the game is purposefully impossible for lore reasons, and you're an immortal great one, engineered by humanity, out to find the previous great ones that disappeared. The game is really cool, has good music, and incredibly creative shot patterns that'll take a ton of time to learn. There's always something new being thrown at you. But unless you're one of the best players around, expect to simply credit feed and slowly grind each level, trying to barely get good enough to not feel like a jackass. It's meant to destroy you and simply see how many less times you can manage dying versus the last load. Any game that makes something like Last Hope seem easy should be approached with caution and low expectations. Kinda like your last date night. But I had to show this one for the novelty alone, as it's not just ridiculously hard, but also really cool. Just another game you wish you could play, if you are actually good enough. This next game came out of nowhere, thanks to a recommendation by Jamus, and it's ridiculous that it's so obscure, as it's one of the best games of this lot. It looks and plays like a polished arcade shooter with top-notch production value, has an opening cinematic with a voiced music track, and could easily pass for a fully realized cabinet. Part of its obscurity is likely the Japanese menus that aren't the easiest to figure out, so it was likely limited to its native country. But it definitely deserves to be played by everyone, as it's a real banger. You choose from one of 3 characters, and each has a unique shot pattern and sub-weapon. Your main weapon fires forward, while your option can point in any direction and locks when you start firing. It's very easy and intuitive to use, making the game fast-paced and fun. Your secondary shot is limited by a gauge that recharges before you can fully use it again. In Banditz, you get a certain amount of hits you can take, represented with the happy faces. Once they're gone, it's game over. If there's a way to continue in the menus, I haven't found it yet. But there is a way to replay any stage that you've already reached, to practice. It starts to get really fun and hectic on the 3rd stage with the now common battleship encounter. Gets even cooler on the second half of stage 4 with the vertical ascent, having to make quick use of your option and keeping it pointed in the right direction. Biker Bandits is just a heck of a lot of fun, and I'm glad that I was able to discover it. This is about as far as I got since I couldn't find a continue option, and Google Translate wasn't much help. But it was fun while it lasted, and I'll definitely be hitting it again to try and see it to the end, as it's a top-tier game in just about every way, and really a crime that it's so unknown. So forget the menus, just fire it up and give it a shot. Select the top option, pick a character, and go. It's really as fun as it looks. XOP Ultra is a weird one. First off, it's got your ex-wife or girlfriend in it. Not mine, yours. Everyone's really. They all kind of look the same, so I'm sure you recognize it. And it does a nice, awesome splat as it explodes all over the screen. Very satisfying. The enemy death sounds are actually really creative in general, starting with the explosions, but then moving to crystals cracking on stage 2, and the nice, meaty splats on the organic levels. The art design is unusual to say the least, and while certainly basic, is actually pretty creative from level to level, including the bosses. It kinda looks like the sick crap that I draw back in middle school when I was bored in class. So what can I say? It speaks to me. To get serious though, XOP has it where it counts, in fun gameplay. It starts out on the easy side through the first couple levels, and really gets going on the organic stage 3 with these Doom-inspired enemies. It's certainly inspired by games like DDP in its enemy and shot patterns, but it also plays a bit slower, making it all easier to handle. However, it takes a different approach in that your ship is normally slower, but holding down the boost button speeds you up. There's a score attack where you can choose any level in the game up front to practice, so you're never locked out of seeing much of the content. You can even adjust the explosions from normal to massive to ridiculous and ludicrous. Now, not all the stages are this cool, where you're wondering exactly what the hell you're looking at beneath you as you play. Actually, I know exactly what I'm looking at, but I'm not telling, or I might get demonetized. So use your imagination. Either way, it still looks like it belongs on the X, and you get to blow it up. Bonus points. But wait, there's more, as Ultra was the initial iteration, and it was a bit unfocused and made for a game with good ideas, but too many of them, a bit all over the place. 6 years later, in 2008, Christopher released XOP Black Ultra, a new game with new stages and lots of improvements. The gameplay feels faster and tighter, and switching between your focused and spread shot is now more integral to the gameplay, as well as alternating your speed. It's an overall more focused game, with new content and levels to explore. The graphics are more refined, and the new music is quite good. Both games have their charms, but if you're not feeling the experimental nature of the original, Black Ultra might be the ticket. And don't worry, you can still blow up your X in this one too. There are so many more cool games that I played this week that I'd love to show, like Layera Stargazer, and even mobile games like Bullet Hell Monday, but it's impossible to show them all. So once you've tried some of these, and you're hankering for more free-to-play options, go and bookmark the free-to-play Shmups Wiki in my description, and check it anytime you need a hit of something new. Thanks to awesome people in the community, like Hauser, who came up with this idea, and other contributors like Jamers, Quake Doom Nukem, BB, M. Night, Bam, Dubs, and many more. This wiki is now a reality. So take advantage, as it's not often you get to hit the crack pipe for free. Thanks to the awesome people that make these games for us, and those that help us find them. And a final thanks again to Charlene, aka CHA-STG, for maintaining the Shmups Wiki for the entire community. If you enjoyed this video and are looking for something similar, you can check out my recent Best Shmups for Beginners, and find some easier games that are perfect to start practicing. Or if you want some tips on getting better at the genre in general, I have a Shooter 101 playlist with videos on upping your game and how to practice. Check them out, enjoy, and smoke 'em if you got 'em.